A very good afternoon, everyone. My name is Roger. I'm glad to have everyone here. Perhaps this is the first time in my life I'm doing a webinar. So normally I do a lot more face-to-face discussion, face-to-face presentation. Webinar is a new thing to me. Zoom is new. Until like 3 weeks ago, I had never known about Zoom until today. And we are using Zoom almost on a daily basis. So first, just allow me to share screen on what we're going to do. I believe everybody can see the screen. Okay, good. Okay, I can see my very good friend Wendy on the screen. Good to have you, Wendy. Yeah, Wendy Kwa. Yes, I'm talking to you. Okay, very good afternoon. I think the reason why every one of us are here today, basically because of this little fella called coronavirus. Okay, just a little bit of introduction about who I am. I'm the principal consultant for BDO Singapore. I've been working with SFIC for almost close to 3 to 4 years now, or more. I think probably more. Charmaine will say that definitely be more than 4 or 5 years. I think one of the things I realized working with the furniture guys over the past few years, been you guys have a very closely knit bunch of people, and being closely knit will enable every one of us to be able to overcome this crisis in a very, very smooth and fast way. And what I want to share with you today as well is basically some of the things that we should, as leader, especially the emerging leader among the second generation, we as emerging leader, how do we look at crisis like that and basically ride through the storm moving forward? I'm not that old. I mean, Ernie or probably will be a more appropriate person to talk about various crises that he has faced. In my lifetime, I have seen the '97 financial currency crisis. I've seen the SARS. I've seen Lehman Brothers, and now I've seen coronavirus. So you basically can see that it's almost on a cycle of close to every 10 years, you will get one major upheaval in the business environment that will test maximum of what we can do as a leader. This little fella here, coronavirus, I think everybody is no stranger to him or her or it's. One of the key things that probably we realize that this is something that hit us very fast. And it was only in December, I remember, I was talking to somebody from China about this. I mean, we heard about news in Wuhan, and even for them it was an issue of it was a small flu, flu-like, restricted to one particular province in the country, and probably nothing will happen thereafter. I mean, it will be contained. I mean, 3 months, 4 months down the road, you realize that obviously it's now a pandemic across the world. It's a very interesting thing. But I think we as leader, one of the key things that we must always look at is how do we actually embrace crisis like that. So you probably realize that in the next 2 weeks or so, we have a series of webinar basically to address a few things. Today, I'm going to talk to you about embracing uncertainty. Then we're going to look at talents realignment. We're going to talk about understanding some of the crucial financial dimension that a leader needs to know. And the most importantly, on the 4th of May, and the reason why we choose the 4th of May was because it was supposed to be the last day of the lockdown in Singapore. But apparently now, obviously, it's moved to 1st of June. So maybe we can do a lot more series down the road, but let's see how it goes. But I think important thing is the last one, I want to look at resilient leadership and strategy. That will be something that I also like to share with you, how the Chinese company has overcome the COVID in the business sense very fast. So what I've done is basically I have worked with my Shanghai and my Beijing office to gather some data. And I will share with you in the last seminar, probably on the 4th of May, how the Chinese are able to overcome COVID so fast, so rapidly, while the rest of the world are still very much embracing that. Okay. So the next thing I'd like to do with everybody, just to get a bit of sense of the understanding of COVID virus. It's not a test, but just an understanding of COVID virus. I have a list of some questions that I put in front of you now. I would like you to be able to fill up that question, then we can probably see in terms of what will be the respondent from everybody. I'll give you a minute or so to look at it. It's altogether 4 questions, so please, there's one more below. In the meantime, I'd like to say hi to, I don't know whether Caden is there, Evelyn, Marcus, Wendy, Elaine from SMF, Joshua from Healing Touch, welcome if you are there. I think most of you has probably done it. Chris, are we able to share the result soon? Or
Yes, we are nearly 2 minutes into the poll, and we have about 80% of our respondents coming back with their answers.
okay.
If I could quickly go through right now, for question 1, do you agree that we are heading for a financial crisis due to COVID-19? 100% said yes.
Okay.
Second question, do you agree that President Trump has caused the medical upheaval in US due to his delay actions? 78% said yes, while 22% said no. For question 3, do you foresee that we will recover from this crisis as fast as we have done with SARS? 77% at the moment said no, while 23% said yes. And for the final question, now that China is back on its feet, we should see speedy economic recovery globally soon. 83% said no, while 17% said yes. Thank you, everyone that has actually polled for this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you very much. The reason I would like to put a poll to all the participants is basically one of the key things of handling crisis as a leader. We need to make sure that we are able to distinguish between facts and fear. There are a lot of fear out there about what is going to happen. I mean, you talk to businesses today, you talk to anyone on the street, you talk to all the businesses that you work with, your supplier, your customer, even your competitor. Most of the people will have the word fear in their discussion because most of them probably have no idea what's going to happen. But I want to state this as first, we need to ascertain what are all the facts. For poll question number 1, do you agree that we're heading for a financial crisis due to COVID-19? I'd like to remind every one of us in the webinar that Dow Jones was at a all-time high of 28,808.92 in the early part of January. All-time high, okay? All-time high. Question, if you talk to any of the financial expert, being the bankers, before the crisis, the financial structure around the world are fundamentally still sound and robust, and still is today. And that's the reason why you realize that a lot of government and a lot of companies are able to weather through the storm because the financial structure is still very much in place. What is going to happen 3, 5, 7 months down the road is anybody's guess. But the fact is that we were way better off before the crisis. We were very robust and our financial structure was very much sound at the point in time. That is the fact. Second question. We talk about President Trump. I think probably most of us have seen on CNN, on Fox, on CBS, of all of the things that's happening in the US. But the fact is, if you look at the old administration of Obama, and if you look at Obama's legacy has always been healthcare. And one of the key things about Obama's president legacy is basically he's able to set up the healthcare and the insurance system for everybody in the US. And that was what he boasts about before he left the White House. But you look at today's situation. Today's situation is people are dying in US. Firstly, and one of the main reasons is because people are not able to get into the hospital for treatment. Family, because they do not have insurance. So whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? That's the facts you need to understand. Third thing, we talk about crisis, and I think most of you probably agree that we will not be able to recover as fast as what we had done during the SARS period, which is true. Why? Because during the SARS period, we are very much Asia-centric. Then China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, to a certain extent, Singapore, Malaysia, and the rest of the region make up bulk of the infected. But if you look at what COVID has done today, it's no longer just about Asia, it's the world. And we have not even touched about the effect in Africa and South America, where we know that basically the hygiene and the healthcare standard is probably not as robust as those in Europe and in US. So what are we going to see? That is another big question mark that we are not sure about. And the last question as well, 83% of you says that probably China, despite the fact that China is now back on its feet, are we going to see a quick turnaround? Is it going to be a V-shaped curve in terms of response back in the economy? I've spoken to a few bankers and investors over the past few weeks, and the general consensus will be it will be a U-shape, and most of them are hopeful that it's not a long, draggy U-shape. Hopefully, people are looking at a U-shaped recovery. But if you look at what's happening around the world, as much as China is on its feet, production is going. We do need to understand that China is a factory for the world. But if the world is not buying, what is China producing for? Who is China producing for? There are domestic consumption, but if you look at the statistic, you realize that China do a lot of export as well. So they still need very much the EU market to be alive. They still very much need the US market to be very much back on their feet before some form of real recovery can be seen. And it doesn't help if you look at oil prices that has plunged to a negative as of 2 days ago. And oil prices have dodged. And US president basically has also issued embargo on Saudi Arabia oil in favor of their own internal oil in order to boost the oil price. So those are the things that is happening today in the world. So one of the things I want to set the stage, and hopefully you will probably lay the terms in terms of what are the things we're going to discuss in the next few seminars as well, is we need to get the facts over the fear. Okay, there are always a lot of fear, but we need to get the facts right first. That will be the first thing we need to look at. Okay. Typical response to uncertainty. I just want to share with you. This is from your textbook, your typical management textbook. If you have done some form of business study in your school, and some form of MBAs, you probably realize that there's a typical response to uncertainty that Harvard has basically classified into the 4 categories. One is the philanthropists. If you look at companies like the LVMH, you look at companies like Uniqlo, you look at all the big companies that are basically now looking at splashing money to save the world. Microsoft, Bill Gates, Jack Ma, basically splashing cash to save the world, splashing cash for PPE equipment for the medical health worker, for the surgical mask. And you also probably realize that these are the time where they're setting up money to help the poor, basically during this uncertainty. These are the companies that typically are the bigger company. But not to say that small company can be philanthropists. If you look around your own countries, Singapore, Malaysia, we have a lot of those people basically now sponsoring food during this crisis. For example, in Singapore, there are many companies that are currently sponsoring equipment, food to the foreign laborers that are basically suffering due to this virus. The second one, we have some company that's more recluse. What they do basically, they're oblivious to the crisis. They are like ostrich. They place their head into the sand and says that this is not happening to me. This is nothing to do with me. Whatever happened in the virus has nothing to do with me as a company. We have nothing to do with this. It doesn't affect me because we are not affected. Well, I have seen a few companies that are telling me that we are medical suppliers. It doesn't do with us. The more virus there is actually better for us. These are companies that basically are oblivious to what is happening. There is another type of company that is more the reductionists. These are the hyperactive company. The moment they heard the word crisis, they will start with everything. They cut off everything. They cut off plan, they cut off marketing, they cut off advertising. They start to reduce people from the cleaner to the gardener. They start to reduce everybody they can reduce. Their whole idea is basically any growth plan are thrown out of the market. They are not interested. They just want to stay status quo. They just want to keep their money, basically. And the fourth type, you have all the opportunists. The opportunists are the one they look at and they say, in typical Chinese, they always say, in 危机, there's always a 机会. So basically, they're looking at how do they maximize this uncertainty to make more money. So these are the typical four type of companies that is basically out there in the market today. But what I want to share with you today is more as we as emerging leader, the next generation leader, how do we embrace uncertainty? Because there will be more of this in time to come. And Ernie probably will share after me in terms of how they weather the various storms before that. And you're going to see more storm. It's not going to be the only storm that we see now. You're going to see more storm as you move forward. And one of the things that you want to look at is basically then your whole idea of analysis will come in very clearly. You probably realize in your school you learn about PES, you learn about SWOT analysis, you learn about PESTER, Porter 5 forces. Whenever I do consulting with company, we go through that, and most of the time the company will always say, "This has nothing to do with me. We are too small to affect. All these things doesn't affect me." You know, one of the things that I remember vividly in November when I was doing a similar pest analysis with a company, and we did highlight that illness, viruses, pandemic could be one of the issues that you can look at as a way of preventing yourself, getting a business continuity plan going. They were laughing at it. In November, they were laughing at it. This will never happen, you know. It will never happen to Singapore. No, we would not have this, you know. We have such a good, healthcare system. We have such a clean city, and none of this will ever happen to us. But look at what is happening now today. So while we focus a lot on your PES and your SWOT and your Porter, I also want to share with you a circle of sustainability. It's a very new idea developed by Harvard in the last 3 years, basically focus on three things, which I think makes sense to all of us today's environment. We focus on people, we focus on profit, and we focus on planet. Today, we are all at home because of what is happening to our Mother Earth. It's climate change. Climate change has caused viruses to mutate, to become stronger. They probably are stronger against what our body immune system could hold. But it's also through this crisis that we need to look at people. Because at the end of the day, these three circles will form what we call a sustainability of your business in the long run. Of course, I'm not going to go into a long lecture in terms of what it is, but I just want to share with you that this is a new idea now. So when you look at analysis today, it's not just about profit at one end or just not about people. There are some theory that focus a lot on people. There are a lot of theory that focus a lot on profit, but it needs to be a harmonious transaction in order for sustainability to be carried out for any business in the long run. So how do we embrace uncertainty? And that's something that probably I'd like to share with you as we move along. You know, one of the things I do not fear most, you know, my biggest fear for most of the company I work with was not that they don't know that the crisis is going to impact them. I think most of us recognize that the crisis, the existence of the crisis, the depth of the crisis, the complexity of the virus, but many of us are paralyzed by the fact that it is here. We are paralyzed by the fact that we don't know what to do, which often manifests into slow, timid, and erratic decision making. I think that's the greatest fear for most businesses is basically, are we able to break out of this cycle, the vicious cycle or the law, the Murphy's Law? If things can go wrong, it will go wrong, you know? So one of the things you realize that now, facing a lot of companies are saying that, look, this is the best time that I need to reduce the number of people I have, you know? That is something which I'm going to talk about next week, my second topic, in terms of trimming the fats to get fit for growth, you know. How do we work with talent? Those are the topic that we will discuss on another day. But these are the times that people are looking at it and say, look, I don't know. I know it's going to be long. I know it's going to hit us hard. But how do I embrace? How do I react to all this? You know. So one of the things I want to look at is basically, you probably won't see this a lot in any of the management book because it's very different. So one of the things I want to look at is when we're assessing uncertainty, we need to assess uncertainty under different time horizon. Firstly, for example, we need to look at the immediate, mid-term, and the long-term effect of this virus. Importantly is every single one of us are different. Why? Because we are on different industry. Different industry will take different time to recover. The furniture boys will probably be very different from the retail boys as vis-to-vis the medical boys. The medical boys are probably not in any crisis at this point in time. So they probably would not be considered this uncertainty. But you need to look at your immediate, what will be the key things that you want to concern now versus the mid versus your long term. Second, where are all your market geographically? Because it differs. Thailand is talking about opening up. Australia, New Zealand, and Germany are talking about control, releasing of the market. Singapore just go into an extended circuit breaker or lockdown in your term, in your country. So different markets will probably work very differently in that aspect. The contours of recovery also will probably differ from country to country, industry to industry. An important thing is, after all this, the collective experience shared will shape the new normal. What will be the new normal? In time to come, you realize that people will find that working from home is okay. I mean, you talk to people 6 months ago that one day your company will be all working from home. They will be laughing at you. They say, no way my company can do that. I'm pretty sure that my friends, Caden, Wendy, even to a certain extent, Joshua, which is running a very reputable spa business, will always tell me, no, that is not possible. It's not possible 6 months ago. But now you look at it, everybody is forced to work from home. So what will be the new norm in time to come? So it's important that under this, we need to maintain our sightness across the time horizon. The different time horizon will mean that different things. So not everybody is the same. So as much as you will ask me, Rod, so what should we do at this point in time? I think the first thing you need to look at is, first, your uncertainty is under what time horizon? Where are you? Just like a product life cycle, where are you at this point in time in relationship to the crisis that you're facing? Okay, that will be the first thing you need to ascertain. Second thing, don't be overwhelmed. I think one of the key things I realized a lot of bosses that I talk to are simply overwhelmed. They're simply worried that, no, this is if you are living in Singapore, if you look at Facebook, there is a particular group started by the retailer, basically talking about how do they fight against the landlord for better rental and everything else. Interesting Singapore concept. But you realize that if you go inside there, you realize it's all doom and gloom. Basically, it's not setting anything positive, or it's all about, oh, this landlord is not good, this landlord is not giving me rebate, this landlord is chasing me for lawyer letter because I'm not paying rent, things like that. So my question is, do not be overwhelmed and understand and plan accordingly. First thing, look at your immediate term, okay? Understand and weighing the impact of your business. What is the immediate thing? What are the things that are affecting you right now? Business are not moving, your stock couldn't go out, no order. What are the things that are stopping you now? Then you start to analyze the crucial dimensions such as your business continuity plan, your liquidity, your asset use, and your redeployment of your force and your assets. Those are things that you want to look at immediately, okay? In the medium and the long term, you want to shift to factors that influence the direction of the company strategy, the position, the resilience, the supply and demand, and also the competitive dynamics. Those are the things you want to look at in the medium term. Then the question you ask me, Roger, where's my immediate and where's my medium term? Because different business will look at it differently. So for Singapore, basically, what's the immediate term? The immediate term will be from now till end of the circuit breaker. That will be an immediate term. When you talk about your slightly short to mid long term, probably will be something June, July, August. Those are the 3 sectors 3 months that you want to look at. What you're going to do next in those things. So do not be overwhelmed. You need to understand where you are. You need to understand what are the immediate things you need to do, what are the immediate things you need to do. But we're going to share with you a lot more in terms of the crucial dimension, such as your liquidity, your asset use, in my third seminar with you. So those are the things that we will also talk about as well. Third thing, I think it's good to take the chance to envision the multiple future scenario. We call this scenario planning, okay? First thing, we need to acknowledge that what what the future holds, we don't know, and nobody's comfortable with that for the fact that we don't know what's happening in the future. But the key here, and probably Ernie, probably you can later highlight on this as well. I think the key here is to imagine and consider divergent future. Okay, the divergent futures. For example, I share with you. If you look at what is happening now in the world, there's a lot of issue of people spraying to people, and look at the Grab driver. Nobody wants to take a Grab because I don't know where the driver, who has the driver picked up before me. Is the driver sick and all things like that. That's why things like your autonomous car, autonomous vehicle will come into play. These are the factors that will propel the development of the autonomous vehicles to be faster. These are things that will roll out in the market, that will shorten the gap, to shorten the time for them to roll up to the market in time to come. These are the products that we need today. Okay, so I think what I want to share with you is basically we need to open our mind and say that, look, what are the divergent futures that's out there for us as a company. The scenario can be used to provoke consideration of multiple possibilities in capabilities, in your innovation, your M&A, as well as your potential partnership that you're talking about. All these scenario plannings allow you to look at what are the future I want to look at. Because you look at a lot of F&B today in Singapore, you realize that, wow, because of the lockdown, and probably the same in your own market, you look at the lockdown today, because of lockdown, I suddenly lack of something, I don't have anything that I can work with. For those that are already in the online delivery, they have the advantage. They can quickly switch to their platform. For those companies that still very much tradition and doesn't leverage on delivery and think, what's going to happen? It's a very interesting thing. Obviously now we are staying at home, and I don't cook myself, so basically I do a lot of ordering myself. And I realized a very clear three types of scenario. One, companies that leverage on Grab and Gojek. If you are from Indonesia, we do have Gojek in Singapore, but I think most people use Grab, Uber to a certain extent. So your Uber, your Grab, your Gojek, your food delivery, your Food Panda, your Deliveroo. Those are what people that leverage on that. But one of the things you realize that people who leverage on that platform often complain about, the high commission that I have to pay to those platforms. I'm not making enough money, despite the fact that I'm having a lot of orders over the past few weeks. But it's not the same as compared to those people that walk into my restaurant and eat, because I make more money using them rather than using Gojek and everything else. Those are one of them. Second, these are the companies that are beginning to envision the fact that, okay, I want to have delivery. I'm going to do island-wide delivery. I'm going to have one phone number that people can call in and order. They put up a massive social media advertising, and suddenly you suddenly realize that the company is getting 1,000 of phone. Everybody's calling in and say, yeah, I would like to order food. But then you realize that they couldn't match up with the order. They just couldn't supply. They don't have the people. They don't have the food. And add to the fact they only have one line. They couldn't even take out all the calls. I mean, I was frustrated trying to call in one of the well-known restaurants in Singapore, trying to order food. I mean, I tried to order dinner at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but I couldn't get it. I've been calling since 3 o'clock. I couldn't get a call in until 5 o'clock. I had to give up. The third one are the people that basically are leveraging on technology. The one particular restaurant in Singapore, basically you can just order from the web, click on everything you want, we'll deliver to you. No question asked. You don't even need to bother. And you could track your order. So basically what I'm trying to share with you is basically look at your business today and envision what are the possible scenarios you want to look at that will support. Important word here to learn is future proofing. You need to future proof your business over the new strategy and the option that you use. You need to future proof it, because this crisis open up your eyes to the flaws that you might have within your business. These are an opportunity to look at it and say, what are our shortcomings and how do we overcome them? Fourth, I think it's hard for many people to do this, but what I'm also asking you guys to look at is to seek diverse perspective. Not with the intention to delay the process, because you realize that the more you talk to, the more people you talk to, you probably will delay the decision making. But the whole idea of talking to more people is to make it better, making your decision better. You need to seek perspective from, say, for example, the younger generation, from those outside your industry, from those outside your geography, and those outside your company. You need to look at what else is out there. Because one of the things we learn over time is basically the moment you start talking to the same old people again and again, you have what we call you being trapped in the paradigm. You're not able to think out of the box. So the whole idea is, are you able to identify and draw upon those whom you know will disagree with you and have a different opinion from you? These are the people that probably will be able to save you during crisis. Okay, those are the things that you might want to consider. And what are the options I have after I look at all this? There are different type of options that we can talk about. First one, there's always your required move. Things that you need to do, okay, to ensure the viability of the company in the near future. For example, if a company is losing money, your company is bleeding cash flow, one of the things you need to do is basically start talking to your banker, start looking at cost reduction. Those are the things that you need to do, regardless of whether you like it or not. So the first thing you want to look at is what are all your required moves that you need to do. Second, you need to look at things what I will call a no regrets move. Things that you won't regret doing it. Basically, those are the choices, action that will make sense even under any scenario that you plan out. Under any scenario that I'm going to do that. For example, you look at basically investment in your staff for training. It is something that you will look at and say, hey, it's a no-brainer. It's something that you can do easily and something you should do now at this time. You realize that in Singapore, just to share with some of our friends in ASEAN, in Singapore, one of the key things that we emphasize a lot during this time is training. Retrain your staff so that when the business pick up, they are ready. Retrain your staff for future business growth. So one of the things you look at is basically invest in your staff at this point in time. It is what we call a no-brainer move. Third thing, you look at what we call a big bet. Okay, BIGBET, big bets. You look at substantial choice or investment made with hope and expectation of returns. These are things that you do now. Hedging, of course, is risky move. But if a lot of business or a lot of people become millionaire during crisis, why? Because they hedge, because they make their big bets. They make the right choice to put into something that people don't dare to put in at this point in time, and allow them to propel them when everything turns around. And last two, you look at things like contingent moves. What is contingent move? Move that is contingent on one or more of the scenario that you talked about earlier on, where you plan a different scenario. If this happened, I need to do this, and this will let me to do this. So what are all the contingent moves? And lastly, you could potentially also look at some form of satellite move. Small things that you do, small little move, small little investment, okay, selectively across one of the two scenarios that we talk about that you have planned out for yourself, okay? But I think importantly is at the end of the day, confronting uncertainty will not necessarily make tough decision any less tougher. It's going to be tough. It's going to be more tough when you make the choice decision under crisis. But that is where the distinguish between a good leader and a not so good leader. So for me to wrap up this session, one of the things I want to look at is, exceptional circumstances such as COVID require a blend of courage, clarity, and humility. Okay, the biggest enemy facing us as emerging leader are not uncertainty and ambiguity. We are used to the idea of uncertainty and ambiguity. But rather, there are things like overconfidence, procrastination, incomplete and biased analysis. These are the things that will cause us basically to fail.